Well, hello, welcome to the video. Today I am really calling myself out for, I don't know, really my personality, like me as a human. I can't do things in a timely manner. So I'm doing a tag. I was tagged by Berna over at Berna's Bookish Adventures like 7 months ago. It was like in September. She tagged me to do the Why Haven't I Read These Books Yet tag. If you don't know who Berna is, she is a Turkish booktuber and she makes a ton of content. She has so many videos. So if you haven't checked her out, you definitely should. You have plenty of backlogged videos to watch. And she does this awesome thing at the end of every single video where she gives a Turkish word of the day. And as a language nerd, that is just like my favorite part of her videos. So definitely check her out. I will link her down below. And Berna, I'm going to tag you in this, so hopefully you see it. I am so sorry that it took me this long to do this tag video. I feel really bad, but again, that's just who I am as a person. It takes me forever to get things done. So the whole point of this video or this tag is to look at your shelves and kind of say, okay, I've had these books forever. Like, why haven't I read them? Like, I'm holding on to them for a reason, and yet I'm not picking them up. So it's kind of a call out. And for me, a lot of these books I've started and then I put down and just never picked up again. So it's kind of a call out to me like, hey, maybe you should read these. Like, why haven't you read these? As the title of the tag suggests. So I'm excited to do this, and I'm excited to just continually call myself out for every single one of these books. So without further ado, let's get into the tag. Prompt number 1 is a classic book, and for this, it's kind of embarrassing because I absolutely adore the movies. I love the story, but I just haven't read the actual classic yet. And that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. There are some like things in here, but I might have started it at one point and gotten like 50 pages in, but I haven't read this book. I think at one point, not on my channel, but like in my life, I have said that I have read this book, but I guess I'm also calling myself out as a liar because I have not read this book. So this is a classic book that I'm just like, why haven't I read this book yet? Why? The second one is a fiction book. And for this, I actually took an entire stack of books off of my bookshelf because I am going to use Rhapsody by Elizabeth Hayden. Again, I started it. I think I got like halfway through it or something. Not quite halfway. But I did start it. I read 262 pages of this book, and I was enjoying it so much that I not only bought the next book, I bought the third book, and the fourth book, and the fifth book. So I have 5 books in this series because I enjoyed what I read so much that I went out and bought the rest of them. Not the rest of them, I think there's more than that, but I bought 5 of them, and I still haven't finished the book. So again, calling myself out as who I am. Like, why am I like this? But yeah, so for a fiction book, I am putting Rhapsody on here as why haven't I read this? The third one is a nonfiction book, and for this one, I'm going to use one that I actually have put on my channel recently, and I am once again just using this as kind of a call out for myself as to not necessarily why have I not read this yet, but why have I not finished this yet? Because I was super into it, especially like the end of last year, beginning of this year, and that is Intuitive Eating. I read like that much of it. I was tabbing it as I was reading it because I was really liking the information in here. And then I never continued. I got 142 pages in. And I mean, obviously this isn't the type of book that you just like sit down and read straight through because it's so entertaining, but like, why have I not read this yet? Like, why have I not finished this yet? I'm working on being an intuitive eater, and like, I'm using the stuff in the book. So like, why don't I just finish reading the book so I have all the information? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, for a nonfiction book, why have I not read this yet? Intuitive eating. The fourth one, I was a little confused because it just says a genre book. And what I gather is you just pick a genre you like and you pick a book that you haven't read yet. So I am going to pick one of the like quintessential fantasy books that I have not read yet and say, why haven't I read this yet? And that is The Lord of the Rings. I have not read this. I have not even started this. I have never cracked a page open in this book. And that is much to the chagrin of my husband because this is one of his all-time favorite fantasy series. He read it when he was a kid or a teenager or something, and he just absolutely loved it. And every time I ask him, well, not every time. Last time I asked him to pick me a book, he picked Legends and Lattes. But almost every time I ask him to pick me a book, Lord of the Rings. Like, why haven't you read that yet? So not only am I saying, why haven't I read this book yet? He's saying, why haven't you read this book yet? So hopefully sooner rather than later, I will get to Lord of the Rings. And then the last one is a book that's been on your shelves the longest. So I have a lot of really old books on my shelves, so I'm really not sure which one has been on there the longest. So I just went and I looked for a book that I know that I've had forever that I've never mentioned on my channel before, because there are a lot that I have mentioned. So I wanted to be a little original with this one. And so a book that's been on my shelves the longest, why have I not read this book yet, is Shogun by James Clavell. I don't honestly know if I'm interested in this anymore, but again, I started it. I got, a decent chunk of the way into it. Oh, 262 pages. Wasn't that the same for the other one? Apparently 262 is just my stopping page. That's interesting. But yeah, I got 262 pages into this and then I never continued it. I got this back in high school when I was super into like Japanese history and like anything that was either fiction or nonfiction about Japanese history. But I mean, for a high schooler, I think a book that's over 1,000 pages long, well, I can't even say that because I did read books that were over 1,000 pages long in high school, but like this dense of a story in high school when you're trying to read for classes and everything, I'm making excuses. I really am just making excuses as to why I haven't read this book yet. But every time I do kind of like a purge of my books, I look at this and I say, no, I don't want to get rid of that. I want to hold on to this. Maybe someday I will read this book. But why haven't I read it yet? It's been on my shelves for like 20 years. 20 plus years? No, probably about 20 years. So yeah, why have I not read this? It's been on my shelves forever. And that's the video. That's it. Those were all of the prompts. The sixth prompt is just to tag people. If you want to do this tag, feel free. I don't normally like pick people to tag. But yeah, it is a fun video. Again, call yourself out for books that you've had on your shelves forever. It's always a good time. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know some of the books that you've had on your shelves that you don't know why you haven't read yet. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!